Hello everyone. Welcome to the first GRE video from Infinite Education. Today we would be like to cover the GRE introduction part, a bit of information about the format of the test, the scoring, and the sections order. Okay, if you like this video, then you can always try to like, share, and comment on our page. First, so when we talk about the GRE test, a couple of things that we need to know. Number one, why exactly we need to take the GRE test, or I would say who would be the potential GRE test takers. So as GRE is well accepted all around the globe, students or individuals who are willing to perform abroad and would like to take up tests in order to do that. So for any sort of a future education perspective, or anyone willing to go for their higher education thing, can always appear for the GRE test. So it can be for your master's degree, mostly it is taken, the MS thing. At the same time, it can be taken for your MBAs as well, because these schools have started accepting the GRE score as well, along with the GMAT score, and definitely for your doctoral degree as well. Second, most importantly, as I was discussing, this is well accepted all around the globe. So GRE has a high acceptance rate. So if you take a GRE test and have a good score, you're actually improving your chances of getting into almost any of the universities possible. Third, there used to be just one version of the GRE test, GRE general test, which is still there, where we had to go to a center and take the test. But over this last 1.5 years, the GRE general test at home has become equally more popular, because most of the test centers have been closed. So students were facing a difficulty to where to go and take the test. So ETS have always come up with solutions for that. So now you can take the GRE test at your home, and that can be any time of your choice, any day of your choice. That is not a problem. Only thing that you have to book your test date, register yourself, and within 24 hours of that, you can take the test. Make sure you have a working internet connection and a room where obviously there is no disturbance and there is no other person there, and you are okay to go. The old option of taking a GRE test in the center is still available. Make sure your city, presently the city in which you are in, has an option of a GRE test center, and accordingly you can go to the ETS website, put on your desired date or a month. Over a month, GRE has test dates around 10 to 15 of them. Again, that depends from bigger cities to smaller cities. But once you see that there is a desired test date, you can book your time slot, pay the fees, and accordingly book your test date. When we say fees, the first thing that we need to understand is, number one, the fees is around $213, and this is particularly for Indian students. And once you've booked your test date, definitely there is a provision of changing test date, or maybe canceling the test date, or rescheduling it. But that is only available 4 days prior to the test date, and obviously charges will be applied. But if it is after 4 days prior to the test date, there will be no changes, and the whole fee will get deducted as usual. And the last part about the scores, the GRE test scores are available within 10 to 15 days in the website. It would take around, I would say, around 20 odd days to get mailed to you in an official format. And the scores are valid for 5 years, as we know. So make sure that you are applying to the desired colleges within that amount of time. Now, when we come to the next part, where we're talking about the format of the GRE test, it has not gone through a lot of changes, I must say. It has remained more or less the same format that we have seen before. The first part of the test, or the first section that we see, is basically called AWA, or what we say as Analytical Writing Assessment. So when you say about Analytical Writing Assessment, it's basically 2 essays that needs to be written, one after another. 2 essays are slightly different from each other, not exactly the same thing. At the same time, we know that the time allotted for these 2 essays is 30 odd minutes. So a total of 60 minutes. The first section is of 1 hour, within which I'm expected to write down 2 essays and finish within that amount of time. The score for these 2 essays are on a scale of 0 to 6. And again, this score of 0 to 6, whatever you get out of 0 to 6, it can be a 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, whatever, will not get added to your GRE score of 340. This comes as a separate score, given as a separate score in your test, in your scorecard as well. It will not get added to your GRE main. What actually comprises of the GRE test score is the two sections, or I would say 5 sections that follow after this, which basically comes from two subject areas or two topic areas. One of the sections is definitely called a verbal section. When we talk about a verbal section, we are looking at around 20 questions, not more than 20, not less than 20, exact 20 every time. And we are looking at a total time of 30 minutes to solve these 20 questions. So out of the next 5 sections, 2 of them will definitely be a verbal section. Timing remains same. Whatever performance we give during these 2 sections, our scores basically depend on that. Now, coming to the quant part, as usual, there should be 2 sections for quant as well. Number of questions remains same, 20. But in case of quant, we get 35 minutes to solve each and every section. So that there is a difference in the timing. Now, alongside this, there would always be one additional section that can be both verbal and quant, or I would say either verbal and quant, because it is completely random. There is nothing fixed there. So on the given day of the test, you are alert that there are 5 sections to be solved, and 3 of them can be verbal or 3 of them can be quant. Whatever be the case, one extra section that comes, either verbal or quant, this section is basically an unscored section. That means whatever you do over these 20 questions, they will not have any impact on your test or your test score. So what exactly matters is the 40 odd questions for verbal and 40 odd questions for quant. Whatever we perform on these 40 odd questions, I get a score out of 130 to 170 for verbal and same for quant. So these 2 scores, whatever I've got in quant and verbal, get added to give me a total score out of 340. Next, now when we talk about the score of 130 to 170 and a total score of 340, the calculation is not that simple, and there is a certain thing that we call the GRE as a sectional adaptive test. The reason behind this is the GRE basically kind of adapts itself depending on our performance or on a student's performance in individual sections. Let's understand it in this way. For example, let's take a student, and the first section the student is solving is the quant section. So the first section of quant, he is getting a first section of quant. The first section of both quant and verbal is always of a medium level of difficulty. It is neither too easy, neither too difficult, somewhere in the middle. And how a student performs in this section, GRE basically will adapt itself accordingly. So let's take an example where the student performed exceedingly well. He got 15 correct answers and 5 wrong answers, which is possible. So the moment GRE sees this performance, that okay, the student could get 15 questions correct, did actually a very good job, GRE will immediately try to make the next section difficult. And what we get out of that, we basically get the chances of getting to a higher score, because the more difficult the question, the more weightage will be given to each and every question, and we try to get a better score if we get more correct answers. Now, let's imagine that the next section was difficult and the student could only manage, say, 5 correct answers and 15 of them were incorrect. So a total of 20 questions got correct by the student. The student got total number of 20 questions correct. So on basis of this performance, the student can expect a score something of around 150 to 155. Okay. Now, how this changes, let's talk about the same student, but a different section this time. We're talking about the verbal section. Now, again, as we know, the first section will always be of a medium level of difficulty. So now, if the first section is medium level of difficulty, the student could manage, say, 5 correct answers and 15 of them are incorrect. Okay. Now, if that is the case, then what happens that the student couldn't perform exceedingly well, and GRE immediately would understand that factor and try to make the next section easier for the student. Now, why this would happen? Because GRE understands that the student is not of that level and would always try to help the student to at least get a good, decent score. Because if it gives the same set of questions or same level of questions, the performance would be similar. Now, so the student got some easy questions, and probably due to that, his performance might have changed. So probably he got 15 correct answers and 5 incorrect answers, possible. Now, on basis of this performance, the student got a total of, again, 20 correct answers into the verbal section as well. Now, what happens with this 20 correct answers, the student is eligible for a score of 145 to 150. Okay, so this is what we talk about a sectional adaptive part. Doesn't matter always how many correct answers we have got. It also matters that where did we get those questions correct and what was the overall difficulty level of those questions. If my questions were more difficult, I can expect a better score out of the questions I've got correct. If my overall difficulty level was easy, even if I solve more questions, I might not always get to the higher score that I was targeting. So overall takeaway point number one, first section becomes very, very important. Give your best shot. Try to get as much questions correct as possible so that eventually the next section is of a difficult level or a harder difficulty level. And we can actually expect a better score if we try to get more questions correct there. Moving to the next part, when we were talking about a few other information about the GRE test. Number one, probably we did not mention it overall before here, that the GRE test does not have any negative marking. So if you see that we were always counting our scores on basis of the correct answers, we did not pay any attention to the wrong ones because whatever questions got wrong, there is no negative mark for that. So that goes on to highlight one important point, that we try not to skip any questions, even if I'm running out of time or there is a question which I find difficult or I'm unable to solve anything, whatever be the reason. Most of the time we have our options given. Most of the time the questions are multiple choice. Even if I'm not sure, I can at least put my mark on any one of them. I can randomly select a B, C, D, so that at least I'm giving myself a bit of chance of getting it correct. If I leave it blank, there is basically 0% chance of getting a correct answer. But if I make a guess, educated guess of around a A or a B or a C or a D, then at least I'm giving myself at least a 20% chance to get it correct. So that's always better. Second, the sections that we talked about, verbal quant, they come in a complete random order. Only thing that is promised is that the first section will always be AWA. Post that, what would be the order? So nobody basically knows about it. It's completely random. I can have 2 verbal, then 3 quant. I can have a quant verbal section alternatively as well. So what we need to prepare ourselves is that we need to be flexible while solving the test. It might happen that I was solving 2 verbal sections at one trot. Immediately after that, I can get a quant section. So my whole approach needs to change from words to numbers. So this kind of a flexibility is always required. That is the reason in your GRE preparation, solving questions is good. Learning new things is always welcome. But more important is taking mock tests, practice tests like the real GRE test. So not solving a handful of 10, 20 questions is going to help you. Taking a mock test in the same format with timed taste things is really going to be helpful. So try doing that before you sit for the real test. Next, in the section, the order that we were mentioning, once we get into one particular section, for the next 30, 35 minutes, I am supposed to solve questions on that section only. Now, there is again no fixed, I would say, order in which the questions needs to be solved. Actually, we have options of going back and forth throughout the section. So it might happen that I get stuck on question number 5. I might not want to solve that straight away. So I can put a pause on it, hold on to that question, move ahead, maybe solve question 6, 7, 8, 9, then come back to 5. Or there were some questions which I found difficult in the test. So I can always mark those questions. There's a mark button given on the top of the screen. And then I can move on to the next question. So I will solve all the other questions if time permits, if I am able to come back, I can come back to those questions, change my answer, maybe redo those questions and move on. So this thing is only available during the sectional timing. But once the sectional timing is over, my 30 or 35 minutes is over, the screen would automatically take you to the next section. I won't be able to come back to that section again. So make sure that you are having an eye on the timer all the time. At the same time, trying to make it clear that the order of the questions is going to be important. Do not get stuck on a killer question for a long period of time. If possible, try to move ahead, go on to the next question, solve them, come back if the time permits. Okay. And obviously, elimination is going to be an important trick. We'll discuss about this whenever we get into any of the topics. When we talk about elimination, we basically mean of eliminating the wrong answer choices. As we discussed, most of the questions are multiple choice. So the correct answer is basically given on the screen. It's just hidden between a lot of wrong answer choices. So if we are successfully able to eliminate those wrong answer choices, we are actually increasing our chances of getting to the correct answer. So if you're stuck between 2 options, 3 options, do not say that, okay, A is correct or B is correct. Try to give yourself reason why the other ones are incorrect, why B is wrong or why C is wrong. If we are able to convince ourselves that, eliminate that option choice, whatever remains at the end will definitely be the correct answer. And obviously, we never ever forget that the GRE is a time test. So genuinely, these people are not trying to find out how much English or maths we know, or how many questions we can solve, or how correctly we can solve. They are more inclined to know, can I solve a given number of questions, a fixed number of questions, within a fixed amount of time? That is going to be critical. Trust me, if I give you like 10, 20 odd questions of maths and say like you have got 1 hour to solve, all of you will come up with all of the correct answers. Definitely. But the trick part is, can you solve those same 20 questions within timing of 35 minutes while the timer is ticking at the top of the screen? That is where the test becomes tricky. That is where your techniques come handy. That is where your theories, your ability to read quickly, your ability to understand a given sentence quickly really helps. So we always try to keep that in mind. Okay, so these were the few points that we had to discuss, and that's it. So now, whenever we are moving on to the next part, please make sure that you are kind of subscribing yourself to the channel so that you do not miss out on the next videos. We'll discuss a bit more detailed about the verbal section next time. So till then, bye-bye. We'll again connect whenever we have the next topic up. And please make sure that you like and comment on this video so that, and also suggest us some topics that you want us to get covered that would really help you on your GRE preparation. Thank you.